Welcome back to our Presentation Skills series. In our previous lessons, we explored the overall structure of effective presentations. Today, we'll examine a critical technique that connects all those parts together, signposting. These verbal road signs help your audience navigate your ideas with clarity and confidence. Signposting is the verbal equivalent of road signs, guiding your audience through your presentation so they don't get lost. These simple transitional phrases create a mental map that helps listeners track where they have been and where they are going. Effective signposting accomplishes several important goals. It creates a clear structure for your audience to follow. It reduces their cognitive load by providing orientation. It helps maintain attention during transitions. It makes your presentation more memorable, and it demonstrates your preparation and professionalism. Now that you understand the purpose of signposting, let's explore some types of phrases you can use. When starting a new point, you can use phrases like, let's begin with. First of all, I'd like to talk about, or in this part of my presentation, I'll be discussing when moving on to a new topic. You can use transitions such as, this leads us to the next point. Now let's take a look at, or we'll now move on to, and when finishing a point, you can signal the completion of a section with phrases like, that's all I have to say about, so much for, or this brings me to the end of my second point. Beyond the basics, there are more essential signposting techniques to strengthen your presentation. When referring to facts and opinions, you can strengthen your arguments by introducing evidence or perspective with phrases like, according to the latest study, in my opinion, or a good example of this is, when referring back to previous points, you can connect new information with phrases like, as I mentioned earlier, let me come back to what I explained before, or building on our previous discussion. And finally, to summarize and reinforce key takeaways, you can say, before I move on, I'd like to summarize the main points. Let me briefly recap the main issues, or the key takeaways from this section are. Let's see these phrases in action with a real example. Okay, so that's the background and the reason why we developed the system. This leads us to the next point, which is the Information Center itself. As I mentioned before, the Information Center was set up 3 years ago to assist visitors. A good example of this is the interactive map we installed. So much for the Information Center. Now, let's move on to our new mobile app. Notice how these highlighted phrases create a clear roadmap through the presentation, helping the audience understand exactly where they are in the journey of information. From your audience's perspective, a presentation without signposting can feel like navigating an unfamiliar city without a map. Signposting benefits your listeners by reducing their cognitive load, freeing up their mental energy to engage with your content. It also creates confidence as listeners feel secure knowing where you're going and how long each section will take. Most importantly, it improves retention, as information organized with clear signposts is easier to remember and recall later. While signposting is a powerful tool, it is important to avoid common mistakes. Overuse. Using too many signposts can make your presentation feel mechanical and disrupt the natural flow. You should aim for balance, enough to guide but not dominate. Inconsistency, promising to cover 3 points but delivering 4, or using different terminology for the same concept, creates confusion rather than clarity. Vague transitions, generic phrases like moving on without specifying where you're moving to don't provide enough direction for your audience. Empty promises, saying, I'll come back to this later, but never returning to the topic damages your credibility and leaves audience questions unanswered. Effective presentations layer multiple types of signposts to accommodate different learning styles and reinforce the structure. You can use visual signposts to complement verbal ones, such as consistent progress indicators, color coding for different sections, or agenda slides with "You are here" markers. You can also use physical signposts by moving to different areas of the stage for different topics, using hand gestures to indicate transitions, or changing your vocal tone when shifting sections. The way you use signposting should be customized for different presentation types. For short presentations of 5 to 10 minutes, you should use minimal but precise signposting to maximize content time. This can include a clear opening roadmap, single-word transitions between main points, and a brief closing summary. For standard presentations of 20 to 30 minutes, you should balance comprehensive signposting with your content delivery. This would include a detailed opening agenda, mini summaries between sections, progress indicators, and a comprehensive closing review. For interactive workshops, which are typically 60+ minutes, you should use frequent reorientation to maintain focus. This can include repeated agenda touchpoints, clear activity transitions, time-based signposts like in the next 15 minutes, and connection signposts between exercises. To conclude, here is your signposting action plan. First, analyze your content. Review your presentation structure and identify the natural transition points where signposting would be most valuable. Second, plan your phrases. Select phrases that feel natural to your speaking style and complement your content. Third, practice integration. Rehearse your presentation with the signposts until they flow naturally without sounding forced or scripted. Finally, refine based on feedback. Ask colleagues to note whether your signposting provides clear direction throughout your presentation. Remember, effective signposting is not about following a rigid formula. It's about creating a seamless experience that helps your audience follow your ideas with ease and confidence. With practice, these techniques will become second nature in all your presentations.